So today we're looking at a interesting loadout, which I haven't really realized how amazing it is until you actually just play with it for long enough. Now, as you notice, I actually only have 3 magazines of 5.56, and I have 10 flashbangs. And this is kind of incredible about how well this works. There is a caveat to this where it's not going to be great against huge levels, but there's not a lot of really big ones. So that would be like hospital, that would be hide and seek, and then like the 3-letter triad. Generally for those, you would want to take basically 1 or 2 more magazines. Having 4 or 5 magazines would probably be enough. If you are playing with a team, this is still amazing for any level. Use basically half a magazine or just 1 total magazine to take out an entire map, assuming that you're playing with other people, because a lot of the time people aren't really throwing a lot of flashbangs. They're usually firing a lot. So you just a lot of the time you're just throwing a lot of flashbangs, and it's kind of hilarious. And not only does it make the level a million times easier, when you do need to start shooting, you have more than enough magazines to deal with any threat. Now, you're going to be dealing with threats in certain situations or certain rooms that you might clear at the initial start of a map. But when it comes to the types of rifles I recommend using for this, I don't really recommend any 7.62 round type magazines that have 20 rounds in them, just simply because it is not enough ammo for when you do need ammo. So try to stick to 300 blackout rounds are acceptable, and the 5.56 rounds, of course, are very acceptable as well. For obvious reasons, you are only going to be using semi-automatic. Usually when I am shooting to kill a target, it's always semi-automatic, and it's usually 2 to 3 shots per target. 1 2 3 or 1 2 1 2, any combination of that, usually depending on their armor and the enemies that you're fighting. A lot of the time you will go through ammo pretty quick like this, but a lot of the time 2 shots is usually all you need, especially if you have a team. But a lot of the time you're only shooting when you come face to face to targets out of the blue. So you are, let's say, clearing a room, and then a target pops out of nowhere, and then you have to take out the target. 2 shots usually is enough for most targets. Playing on hard mode, it's usually 2 to 3 on average, especially if they're wearing armor. But let's say you are going into a room and then you stumble upon a target. You're like, oh, there's a target there. What you can do is you can retreat back into cover and be safe and not have to worry about them firing at you. That's when you take out the flashbang, you pop it, you throw it, and then you take the room. And if there's more than 1 target, you're essentially taking out and neutralizing 2 targets with 1 flashbang. And we still have 9. And that's an insane amount. Also, I do like to take the breaching shotgun so that I can shoot through the corners of wooden doors, to be clear, and then throw a flashbang. Also, having a breaching shotgun also helps with disarming wires through doors. You just have to shoot the bottom corner of the door hinge. Make sure you don't shoot here below the door handle. Make sure it is on the side of the door hinges, and you can be able to disarm the trap from here without opening the door. And if you choose to, you can try to throw a flashbang in there as well, and then take the room. And if it ever comes to it where you have to try to enter a room as quickly as possible, and you know there's no traps on the other side of the door because you had peeked already, what you can do is you shoot 1 corner of the door, and then you shoot another corner of the door, and then you can still throw a flashbang, of course. But then you enter the room like this, and there's no door in the way. It also helps when the door is blocking a particular sight line, because a lot of the time, say with like a door like this, whenever you open the door, technically speaking, you can't see what's behind this side of the door. There could be an enemy here. So taking out your shotgun when you blow up the bottom part, boom, and then you blow up the top part, and you blow out the top part, it does break the entire door, and you can clear this side much more fluidly and storm into the room with a team, making sure to cover all of the areas. Now, as I said, for certain levels, you can just take 1 less flashbang and have 1 more magazine if you feel a little bit uncomfortable just taking 3, because it can feel a little daunting and scary at times. But once you try it out, you might be surprised. As long as you are storming those rooms, using those flashbangs, and whenever you're like going around a corner where you're not sure, there might be an enemy there where you're not sure, or you don't know what's going on, flashbang, flashbang, flashbang. If you know the map already, saving a couple flashbangs for a particular type of room is really handy and awesome. You can throw multiple right after another. Alternatively, you can just take a mirror gun to kind of see what's in rooms. But I do like the breaching shotgun since I always play on the hardest difficulty, and having a breaching shotgun to blow open doors, to blow up traps on doors. Whenever you shoot them, it can push the door open and blow up the trap without injuring anybody, as well as it's a bonus effect that it stuns enemies on the other side of the door, which is also a nice bonus of that. And honestly, if you really want to go crazy with it, even though you already have 10 flashbangs, you can totally just take a flash launcher and have another 4 stuns ready to go. But for general flexibility among a lot of maps, especially with ones with some doors, each breaching shotgun is always going to be awesome. Generally speaking, you can never go wrong with the flash launcher either, of course, but I usually just take the breaching shotgun for more utility. Now, can this be used with shotguns? Absolutely. A lot of the time, 3 rounds for a shotgun is enough. Now, the issue comes with shotguns. Whenever you are taking hostage situations, you'll probably want to take a spread choke so that you can take those shots in hostage situations. If you want to take this and be more generally better at taking out opponents whenever you face them, I do recommend taking 1 less flashbang, having a pistol, maybe even 2 rounds for your pistol, simply for hostage situations or tight corners or whatever. A lot of the time you can even just get away with 1 magazine, but this is totally acceptable as well. I like to take, a couple rounds for the shotgun, for example. Like, this is also a very acceptable loadout for amount of magazines, as well as one point just into your secondary to like break windows, or as I said, take hostage shots, or whenever you are reloading your weapon, depending on the weapon you're using. If you're using this one, it's going to take a lot longer to reload. So having a pistol, be able to take it out after you run dry, if you haven't been reloading, which you should be reloading between combat and generally, between enemy kills, just being safe and trying to have as much ammo as you can. Taking extra few magazines for your secondary is totally acceptable. If you are using something like this one where it reloads pretty quickly, you don't really need to use a secondary, even though it is nice to have just as a backup if you do run dry really quickly and aren't really experienced with using a shotgun. If you're just gonna blast a flurry of 8 shells immediately, then you're gonna obviously run dry pretty quickly. And I suppose you could probably get away with running 3 magazines for the submachine guns as well, but a lot of the time they're not very damage efficient for dealing with tissue, and a lot of the time you are going to be on full auto with them, so you kind of would run out of ammo much quicker. But it'd still be okay for those levels where they don't have armor or there's not a lot of enemies. But let's be real, you don't even need to use your primary and you have 10 flashbangs anyway, so a lot of the time an SMG is not going to be a good pick. But as I said, stick to the 5.56 rounds. The 300 blackout is acceptable as well. Obviously, you can use this one as well. It's a 7.62 by 39 millimeter, but try to stay away from the larger rounds, the 7.62 by 51 millimeter. They do tend to run out, especially in hard mode. A lot of the time I find 7.62 rounds not too great on hard mode because it basically takes the same ammunition to kill a target with a 5.56 or a 300 blackout, which is the same for a 7.62 for some reason on hard mode. But on normal, it seems to take out most enemies in one shot, which is really weird. But yeah, that's very interesting. It's probably just because of health pool values and how the math works out. But anyway, that is it for the video. Hopefully you guys like that. I am going to be doing Ready or Not content, Door Kickers 2. I do want to play some RPG games. Definitely going to be playing Outward 2 when it comes out. When Titan Quest 2 comes out fully and is fully released out of early access, I'll probably be playing that and covering that. So stay tuned for all of that. I still will be making Ready or Not content as always. I love Ready or Not. I always enjoy playing it, as well as Door Kickers 2 and some principles of room clearing concepts or ideas or concepts with related to like team movement. I'm all going to be covering that as well. It does take time to make these things. I like to make my own maps and do all these other things. So as I said, if you are interested in any of that or any RPGs in the future, which I might be randomly playing, like and subscribe. Also, I love it when you guys comment. I always like hearing what you guys have to say, what you guys think. I'll never ever promise anything, but I am usually open to doing a lot of things when it comes to informative or educational stuff related to the games that I am playing. But anyway, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching and have a good day.